Welcome to the TJ Malden Leadership Podcast, where we talk about life, leadership, and the gospel.
What's up, everybody? I'm so glad that you are taking the time. I say this every time, but thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your day, a little bit of your time, just to let us hang out with you in the car when you're riding to work, or maybe you're on your run in the afternoon, maybe you're hitting the gym, whatever it is. But today, I have the incredible opportunity to talk to Shannon, Farley, and Laurie, Veazey about Souls by Grace. And it's an organization that you're going to learn more about, and I'm going to let them intro themselves. But I want to say, one, thank you all for being here. Thank you for offering your time, for driving all this way, even though traffic was awesome and did not experience my kind of traffic that I went through today. I'm really glad that you are here. So I want to jump right in. Shannon, would you just tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, coming to faith in Jesus, and then the thing that we're going to talk about today, Souls by Grace?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for having us and allow us to talk about our mission and our love. I'm Shannon Farley. I would think I was in 7th grade, and it was, just ask Jesus to come into your heart, and I did that, and I've always had a strong faith. But again, going through life, I was a corporate woman, and I was climbing that corporate ladder, and you kind of stepped away a little bit from it. But in that corporate life, I learned a lot of skill sets that I am now utilizing in this ministry, one being a strategic planner. But I was able to come to the church that I attend now, 1122, out of Jacksonville, and just fell in love with the Word, and we really deep dive into it and started really with my faith journey, leaning on the Lord, and we were able to, that brought me to missions work, and I went on my first mission trip, actually as a chaperone for my daughter, who thought she was being called for missions. And on that trip, I was strictly a chaperone, and they asked me to pray over dinner, and I said, nope, that's okay, pass. I'm just here as a chaperone. But God is so good, and He's so graceful that He has now flipped that, where my daughter doesn't feel like she's being called, but my life is now basically for Souls by Grace, our mission. So He does some funny things, but...
So let me just track the course of your life really quick. So at 7 years old, you say you would have embraced the gospel. You heard the gospel clearly. You received Christ as Savior. You begin to follow Him. Life takes over, and you're climbing the corporate ladder, but then falling in love with the Word and your kids being in an environment. Really, your kids introduced you, I guess, to another, like wanting the best for them and just being present for them, introduced you to a new aspect. Was that the first time being on a trip with her? Was that the first time that you had ever seen mission work up close or been a part of mission work?
I grew up in the Methodist church. Okay. And there was always missions, but that was more for people who went to school to be missionary.
Gotcha.
And so, my dad had gone to Honduras and taken some dental equipment, but it wasn't something that, 1122 has a philosophy of, you can sit in the seat for 2 years, but if you haven't gone on mission, then you need to give up your seat. Like, we are very mission focused as a church. And so it was just something, she felt like she was being called to it. We got on a trip. We went to Panama, and then God kind of turned it 180 for me, and now we have a mission, and we go to Africa almost every month.
Okay, so how do we get to take me, and Laurie, I'm going to bring you in a minute, and I'm going to get a snapshot of your faith, but like how do we get from Panama with daughter, and you have 2 kids?
I have 4 kids.
4 kids, okay. So is this your oldest, youngest?
This is my 3rd youngest.
Okay, cool. So you're on this trip in Panama. How do you get from Panama to Africa? And what kind of mission work were you doing in Panama, and we're going to learn about what you're doing in Africa, but tell me how that happened.
It was pretty easy. Our pastor from our campus, Fleming Island campus, we went to Panama with Todd Hickok, and we came back, and he said, hey, we're going to Africa next year. And I asked my older daughter if she wanted to go to Africa with me, and she said, "You betcha."
That's awesome.
So let's go. So that's it, just kind of taking that next step and just allowing God to kind of really maneuver my steps and having the faith to step out there. In Panama, I was going through some relationship issues, and that's where I sat and I said, "God, I give it all up to you. If you want me to stay in this relationship, I know you'll use it as a testimony. If you want me out, you're going to have to get me out, but I give it to you, and I know you love me, and you will put me where I need to be." And when you do that, he puts you in the fast lane.
Yeah.
And he's made it every step he has created. And again, I just have partners like Laurie who put their yes on the table and said, "We can do this. We don't know how. We have no idea each month how we're going to get to our 150 pairs of shoes, but he provides every time." And I'll ask him, I'll say, if this is not your plan for me, take it away, because I don't want to do something that's not your plan for me. And each time he has been so faithful, and it shows up.
It's amazing to me what God, I say this often, but we talked about it even recently here at church, but like God can do so much more with just our simple yes, like with our availability. We're always looking for, am I qualified enough? Do I have enough resources? Do I have what it takes? And it's like, that's not the point at all. The whole idea is that we lay a blank check in front of God and say, "God, I trust that you're powerful enough, you're strong enough, you're wise enough, you're going to do whatever you want." And so you are at this place in Panama where you say, "God, my yes is on the table. I'll give you my whole life, my relationships, my future, the corporate ladder. If you want to strip the rungs out of that ladder, I'm good. Whatever that looks like, you can have my kids, you can have my future. Everything's yours." In that moment, when you're moving from Panama to Africa, as far as a missions perspective, did you go to Africa, having already been to Panama, did you go to Africa with the idea that, like, I'm going with the intention of starting a mission or being involved?
No.
Or did you just go because... Now, were you on that first trip?
Yes, she was too.
Okay, so intro Laurie here. This is Laurie Veazey. You are... y'all meet on this trip. So your yes is on the table. You're surrendering to Christ fully, right? Having already surrendered for salvation, but you're just like, "God, I'll go where you want me to go, do what you want me to do, and I want to get my kids involved." So we're going to Africa. You're on the trip, and now, Lord, what brings you to... tell me a little bit, if you will, just meeting Jesus, and then what stirred your heart to go on a trip to Africa where y'all met?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up here in Tifton in the Methodist Church, and later on I was in the Methodist Church in Jessup, Georgia. Okay. And so I grew up in the church. My mom always went on missions. She went to Peru and South Africa, and she's been on not South Africa, down South America. She's been on several of them, and so it was always 18 or older. It was never younger kids, and so I've always seen them going and serving and seeing the pictures and of everything, and I loved it. And it was just not something that I could do right at that point, or I guess I just didn't think I could do it. So fast forward, I guess kind of like what Shannon said, life happens. Life happens, and there comes a time when you have something just that bad in your life happening that's affecting you and your child. You have to stop, and you just have to surrender to God and say, "I can't do this by myself. I can't do it without you, and I need you to help me." And so that's just what I had to do with that that point in my life of everything I was going through. And so once I did that, and I just had to let it all out, I was able to get through that time in my life. Grow spiritually, and grow more as a person, because I just was able to let it go. And it was still stressful, obviously, but sure. It was so much easier once I finally just stopped trying to control the situations, and I just let him take the reins and just let him take control of it. So while I was in Jessup, I taught at several different schools, but I was in a small little private school, and they were planning, one of the teachers was planning a mission trip I think it was to Kenya, and it was to an orphanage. It's an orphanage that she had been to before, and they were just going to lead praise and worship. They were going to do, craft activities with just the children in the orphanage, and it sounded like a great opportunity. And I was like, okay, I think I really would like to do this. And so we had talked about it, and we were kind of sort of getting our group formed, and then COVID hit. And everything was shut down. And so I guess I just really didn't think about it. Fast forward a couple years, and I'm back home in Tifton, remarried, and the opportunity came up for the 1122 trip. And I knew people that had been before on the same trip, and they were going again, and they were good friends of mine. And they let me know, hey, Laurie, the Africa trip's open up. If you want to go, this is your time to go. And I just prayed about it, and I talked with Blair, my husband, and he was all for it. He said, if this is what you need to do, you go for it. And so there was one Sunday sitting in the worship center, and I was like, I just started tears streaming, and I just knew. I was like, and I tapped Blair on the shoulder, and I said, I'm going to Africa. I knew it. I don't know. I can't tell you what it was, but I knew it that day. I said, I'm going to Africa. This is my time. I need to go. And so I went, not really knowing what to expect. I knew we were having a children's missions portion and medical missions portions. And so I was on the children's educational, and that's where Shannon and I met. Mm-hmm. And
can I interrupt you really quickly? And we'll pick back up right where y'all met, because there's something I don't want to miss, and it's something that just... One thing that I love for both of you, and I think this is an important word for, I think, everyone listening to this to hear and to grab a hold of. The moment that you put your yes on the table with God, and both of you, the way that you communicated it, and regardless of other things going on in your life, those circumstances put you in a position to where you were ready to fully surrender to God. Surrender did not happen without action following. You know what I mean? Like, what I love is like, it's such a picture of the gospel. Like, God calls us to be saved, yes, but I told our church this past week. It's not like he saves us and puts us on a shelf like this redeemed trophy, and he's like, hey, look at all these people I saved. But he saves us, transforms us to send us out. Not that we sit and get in our churches, but so that we can go and give, and that our churches be a launch pad for the gospel, right? Local and global missions. This is something that's been kind of echoing in my heart. Both of your stories, you're going through the same things in some regard, separately, individually, difference of life, walking through some difficulty. But when you lay your yes on the table, you recognize that God's not just calling you into relationship with him, but he's calling you on mission with him. Right. And I think that's important for every believer. If you're listening to this podcast, as a believer, God wants to call you to salvation and draw you to salvation. Yes, but this is such a beautiful picture of, if you stop at salvation, how, praise God for salvation, but if you think that's the whole gospel, then you miss out on so much of what God has for you. Because he has a redeemed life that's filled with opportunities and gospel conversations and mission work and all this stuff for his glory. So I didn't want to miss that. I thought, this is such a perfect picture, because he calls you to salvation, but then he sends you out on mission. Mm-hmm. And so both of your yeses are on the table. You've walked through kind of similar life circumstances. You've been through difficulty. You've been through hardship. You're in a place where you're fully surrendered. God's pouring out blessing on you. You both see an invitation to mission. And now, Laurie, you're back on mission, and y'all meet on the trip.
So we meet on missions. And I would probably say one of the first things that most all of us noticed when we would go into the schools, we didn't go into the orphanages, we went into multiple schools, was their shoes. Mm-hmm. That was almost...
Or lack of shoes.
Their lack of protection, feet coverings. And so that was one of our whole entire group. That was our first comments. That's what we noticed first. And we have multiple pictures of it, because you wouldn't believe it unless you saw it.
Yeah.
And so...
And we actually had an incident on the second day where that little boy was out playing and he cut his foot.
Yes.
And thank goodness we had the medical team there that was able to clean it out and stitch it up and everything. But you start thinking, because that's where the conversation really started, was after that was, we have the acacia tree with the thorns, and it's all rocky.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
if he didn't have that medical team sitting right there to fix his foot, like it would have easily gotten infected.
And then
And how do you
from there.
walk? They do 80% of their time is walking. And if you have a, hurt foot, then you can't go very far.
And part of the policy, we're going to get, I want to return to what you were saying and build on that a little bit, but part of the policy of going to school in this region is that you have to have shoes, right? You have to have a uniform and shoes,
yes.
correct?
Yes.
And so a lot of kids, it's a very similar framework to Jamaica, to where there may be a family with 5 or 6 children, 8 children in the home, and they can't afford shoes. They can't afford uniforms. So brother 1 will pass his oversized uniform and oversized shoes to brother 2 just so he can get a day or two at school and not miss out as
Right.
well. Is that the same dynamic where you're at in Africa and where y'all serve?
It is
It's similar.
It is. They will allow them to go for so long, and then they have testing. And if you don't have those things by then, you get sent home.
Okay.
And there's no safety net. There's no, if you don't have the money, you don't go to school, and that's where your education ends. And how do you get out of poverty? By getting an education. So it's really important for them to have what they need to remove those barriers so they can be in school every day.
Okay. So you two meet, and you're recognizing there's a deficiency in resources, that there's a lot of kids that want to go to school. They want to be a part of education. They want to learn to read. They want these things, but they're being held back by limited resources, not for lack of effort or
Right.
desire, just genuinely the economic situation of the entire community.
Yeah.
So, intro now, Souls by Grace. Was this, how did this come about? What did that look like? Was it in that moment where you are sitting and looking and just...
Well, I think that afternoon we sat with Phil and we kind of brainstormed, like, should we bring shoes in? Should we do it here?
What can we do?
What
How can we do
How can
it?
this work? And we just kind of started, throwing around some ideas. And then and Phil was very good. And Phil was the one who was over the organization that we were over there with. And he said, you're going to go home with a lot of emotions, wait 40 days, pray on whatever it is, and then act on it. So you don't act off of emotions, you act really off of your beliefs and what God wants you to do.
It's really wise counsel.
Well, I lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And because of my corporate training of putting pieces together,
Sure.
I saw it in my mind, and I'm like, I couldn't shake it from my mind. Like, God just put it on my heart, said, you have been trained for this. You can see it, how you can put it. All the pieces were there in Africa. I mean, it's not like we needed to bring anything in. And 2 weeks later, I called our translator, and I said, I've got an idea. Do you think this would work? And he said, oh, Shannon, this would be such a blessing. So we tested it out first on a school for 50 pairs of shoes to just see how the logistics would go. And he's one of our regional pastors. He brought in other pastors. They were able to, share the gospel, why they were providing these 50 pairs of shoes. And then he got pictures, so the logistics works. And then I reached back out to Laurie and some other ones that we had talked about on the mission trip. And I said, hey, do you want to come with me and do this?
I would say it was probably at the 3-week mark where Shannon kind of texted all of us and kind of just gave us a heads up, like saying, what are your thoughts on this? Do you, just thinking, what could we do? Because it was the group of us that had talked about it while we were over there. And then Shannon had kind of already gone through her mind and figured things out. And then she was like, hey, I think we can make this work. And we had to go through, I guess the legal part of it was really the accounting part of it, figuring
So
all
developing
that.
a 501c3.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of the beginning of it.
Sure.
But then I feel like once we got it going, it was pretty easy. I mean,
So when we're saying it, just so everybody tracking, so you can grab this, they launched an organization called Souls by Grace, and you can find it at soulsbygrace.com. But essentially, what you've heard up to this point, they see this great need in the school system in Africa where they are, that children don't have shoes. So you together, you prayed about, you're dreaming this, like 2 weeks, you could say 2 weeks, but like you fly home and you're already playing chess, right?
I don't think any of us waited 40 days.
Absolutely,
No,
absolutely. I know that. I know that temperament, right? I know there's like, no, I've got the plan on a napkin on the plane on the way home. And so when that begins to roll out, they develop a 501c3 and had to navigate probably internationally too, what that looks like in Africa and also here, and how to get resources there, partnering with local vendors as well as the international landscape. But the whole purpose and what I've heard and one, I love the God aspect of this. Like everything we do or we try to attempt for God, we think, well, maybe God will do this. And then like, it was the first 2 years, it was 3,907 pairs of shoes, right? Like, so 3,907 pairs of shoes in 2 years, you go thinking like, man, 50 is a great number. And God's like, just watch me flex.
Yeah.
And so you start this organization with the heartbeat and the intention of, we want to put shoes on these children's feet, on the feet of these kiddos so that they can be educated and they can be in a safe place. And so that prayerfully they can one day walk out of poverty.
Yes.
Right? But the ultimate goal, and I've heard you say this, is partnering with a local pastor so that we're not just meeting an immediate physical need, but we're making sure that in meeting this physical need, we're also administering the gospel to them.
100%.
So how does that work? How do those things overlap, and are they married?
They very much are. The shoes are just the gateway to get into the school.
I love it.
And then once we're in the school, we are able to make sure that they all know that they are made for a purpose. They are made in His image, that He sees them, that He hears them, and He loves them.
I love that.
And a lot of those children, when they're getting their picture taken with the sign and their shoes and everything, they have a very hard time smiling. And I asked one of the people that do logistics for us, I said, Martin, why aren't they smiling? Like, and nobody's ever asked them to smile. Like, that just kills me. But, they have probably more joy, like just running around and playing and than you and I would ever imagine. And they have nothing.
Their life is so simple.
It's so simple.
But they love it. They don't want for the material things we have here because they don't know they exist.
Right.
And it's all, African culture is very much relationship. So, don't keep a time appointment with them. They'll show up 30-hour late because they met their cousin or a nephew or whatever, and they'll sit there and talk and share. It's very much relationship. And so they have great relations, with each other, and they just have pure joy that comes out of it from their soul. They,
awesome.
And we just want to make sure that they know that God is there, even though they might not have everything that they want.
Yeah,
He will provide everything that they need.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So how do you tell me a little bit about then how you, from beginning to end, how you get from A Dream in America to the schools that you're partnered with and the people that you partner with there that you trust? How does that relationship work? What does that look like?
So we have a structure that we work with. We have pastors that are regional pastors. And in the organization that we originally went over there, they have this structure, and we just kind of utilize their structure already. So they have regional pastors that they're church planting. So they have regional pastors and then local pastors. So we work on the top line with the regional pastors, and then they identify the schools that need, and it's mostly rural schools that we go out to. And then we're only giving 150 pairs of shoes, and there's might be 300, 500 kids in these schools. So the pastor works with the teachers to find the most neediest children.
Okay.
And then we go in and they get a pair of shoes and a pair of socks. And then, we always do lollipops or something, but then we pray over them. We talk to them. We go into the schools and we do different grade Bible studies. So we go from creation to salvation, creation with the little ones, salvation with the 8th and 9th graders. And we just want to make them into little disciples. Yeah. And so they can go out and they can go to their families and talk about Jesus and God and how much they love him into his families. And then the families can then go back to the local churches. So that's how we kind of circle them back into the local churches.
And your local pastor, your regional pastors are there for the accountability aspect of we're connected to these families, where it's just not a one-time.
They'll be here when we leave.
Exactly.
They continue the work.
I love that you're partnered with boots on the ground that are permanent. But from what I've heard and the way that you all are operating right now, you're there like all the time, right? Like essentially all the time.
It's Shannon that's there all the time. And it kind of started out as probably every 4 months.
Yeah.
She's like,
I think
I just need to go check on things and just make sure everything's running smoothly like it should. And then it just, as their needs for other things progress, because now we're at the point where we're not just doing shoes anymore. We're also offering goats, chickens. Am I missing something?
Goats and chickens. We do female hygiene products. That's very hard to come by, and girls will not go to school for a whole week with that going on.
So that's what she saw that need when she was over there so much more often. And so we have just progressed into, on our website, if you would like to do monthly shoe donations, you can do that. If you want to do a one-time, donate a goat. A goat can, for them, do a lot of stuff. I just love that so much.
The idea of meeting them where they are, not trying, because usually in my mind, it's typically a lot of mission organizations you see, we're going to take our cookie cutter model and we're going to put our model over whatever country or whatever region or whatever project that we want to do, and we're going to infuse our culture and our model onto your village or onto your people group. And what I love is you walked in with, we see a need in shoes, but now, you know what? Let's buy a goat. Let's do, like goats, chickens, whatever, feminine hygiene products. So it's seeing the need and being willing to meet the need and whatever that looks like. So how can someone right now, if you were to say, man, TJ, listen, there are 800 opportunities for shoes, and there are these 3 schools we could partner with, and we need 47 goats by next winter. I don't know, whatever it is, 357 chickens and 47 goats. How can someone at this part of your ministry, because this ministry is really in its infancy, right? We're 3 years old,
right?
Okay,
yeah.
So this ministry is in its infancy. It went from being on a mission trip, delivering 50 pairs of shoes, 3,709 shoes in the first 2 years, to now like that. I know you know this, but like that arc is incredible, right? From a trip to shoes to goats to feminine hygiene products to chickens. Like, one, what do you hope to be? I guess if you could, I could ask it this way. What do you see when you say, TJ, the dream scenario would be this for this place and this city, and here's how your listeners could fund it?
Each time I go over, I feel like God illuminates something else for me to look at and figure out. And we do a test program. We always try to do a test program in the Kasumu area, and that's with the pastor that kind of kicked all this off. If that test program, like with the goats and the chickens, we do that with the widows, try to empower the widows. If it works, then we would love to multiply it and duplicate it into other programs, other areas with other regional pastors. So right now with the shoes, we're only able to raise enough money for 150 pairs of shoes a month. So that is one school in one area. The dream would be so awesome if we could do 150 or 200 or 250 in 3 areas every month. So now you're talking about 1,000 pairs of shoes, every month being given out to the children. The goats and the chickens, it's a program that we do with the widows where we give out one chicken to a widow, and then when the chicken has chicks, the chick comes back, and then it goes out to another widow. So it kind of
awesome.
blesses others. And then once they do that, then they get a goat, and it's the same thing. So again, we've got a test program going on right now in one area. We would love to multiply that and do it in other areas as well. So just having more funding would allow us to multiply the successful programs that are going on right now into other areas so we could reach more people and, again, just share the gospel. We always have a saying, or my pastor has a saying, you never know what's on the other step of obedience. And, when we walked into this, we had no idea.
No clue.
That Africa was never even on my radar to go to Africa. And we just try to be obedient. And if God illuminates something, we try to meet that need and because he's put it in our path.
So that's amazing. Tell me really quickly, one, I just love seeing what God does with a yes, right? Tell me your roles, both of you, and your responsibilities at this point of the game with the organization, and kind of how you're engaged, how you're involved, and what you're doing right now with the organization. Because you lead. I mean, your official title is the.
I don't know.
Do y'all have no official title? Listen, I
don't
love
know that we ever really put
never
official
came up
titles
with
down.
titles.
Okay,
There's
so you're just leading it. You're the lead leader of the leaders that is leading the
We are
leadership
following
of
Shannon,
it, right?
yes.
And they're
Okay,
so awesome. So Laurie's on the board, and she's been on it from day one.
That's what I was getting at. I knew she was on the
Yeah.
board. So what capacity right now? Your responsibility, what it looks like to be engaged, and I'll let you know where I'm getting to in a minute. But just kind of the roles you're feeling right now.
So right now, we're trying to get some local fundraisers. There's a lot that goes down in Jacksonville because that's where 99% of our board members are. And so I'm the only one up here right now. And there are people that know about it, obviously my family and friends, and there are other people around town that know about it, but we're just trying to bring more exposure. And so I guess that with me being up here, that's kind of what my focus is fixing to start, or is to get it shared around town so people know, hey, do you know what Souls by Grace is?
Yeah. So the reason I make that point, and that was an intentional leading question, right?
Right.
And the reason I make that point because what's your job? What do you do?
We're sharing the love of God.
No. What's your
You're a
job?
teacher.
Like you're 9 to 5. Yeah, you're 9 to 5.
My full-time job, I'm a teacher. I teach school. And
Right. At one of the heralded elementary schools here
Yes,
in
yes.
our community, in our county. But the reason I want to, I guess, billboard that is because so many people sit on the sidelines of gospel work and gospel ministry and mission saying, I have this 9 to 5. I have this job. I have this corporate ladder to climb. I have these things to do. I have my own dreams and aspirations. There's no way that I can do X, Y, and Z for God. And what I'm looking at is two people who have said, no, I don't care what the corporate ladder looks like. I'm going to say yes to God. And I'm going to do it. You're sitting here saying you're taking care of these little kiddos, from which one is a grace by God all by itself, but you're taking care of these little kiddos. I know you're super gifted at it, and praise God for teachers. I don't know how y'all do it, but you're currently doing that 9 to 5, but your heart and your mind, you're still engaged on mission internationally and trying to figure out how to plug that in locally. So your story, one thing I love about this story of Souls by Grace, you rob from everyday Christians the excuse of, I'm too busy, I have a family, I have a job. You have all of those things, and you're still fully engaged on mission, and I love that. And I think it's beautiful for us to see and to think about and to hear. Okay, I may have a 9 to 5. I may have kids that are in sports. I may have kids that I'm sending off to college, and you're in these seasons of life. And eventually you'll have kids that are getting married and doing all these different things. But for both of you, you're like, yeah, but I'm just saying yes to Jesus for the long haul. And so that means if I'm in Africa 1 week a year, praise God. If I'm there every 3 weeks, praise God, whatever that looks like. I think it's important for everyone listening. It's important for me to remember that when we lay our yes on the table with Jesus, we have to take our excuses off the table. And that's what I see. That's what this picture is for me, is like women who have said, yes, God, I will go wherever. And you know what? I'm not going to make the excuse I got a 9 to 5. I'm not going to make the excuse that teaching is difficult and stressful. I'm not going to make the excuse, whatever it is, all of my excuses, I'm going to lay over here and I'm just going to say yes to Jesus and see where he takes me.
Right.
And I think it's a beautiful thing for the church and for those listening to see and to hear.
But that's your faith, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have no idea where this is going to end up or
Right.
where it's going, but we're just willing to take that next step, and we know he'll guide it.
I love that. That is
Yeah.
awesome. So tell me, how have you seen, you're teaching young kids creation, 8th and 9th graders, the gospel. Are there gospel stories that you're seeing unfold by providing the physical needs through the ministry? Gospel conversations, family transformation. Just give me a snippet, something that you've seen where you're like, this is the gospel in action.
One thing for me, so this summer we were there for 3 weeks, and we were in 14 different schools, and we brought the gospel to over 5,000 children. And with the 8th and 9th graders, we were going to make salvation bracelets and go through the colors, and then we were going to give them a little card. So when people ask them about the salvation bracelet, they can tell them very quickly about Jesus and how it came in. So again, we're trying to make them into little disciples. Well, the first day we were at the first church or school, and we reached in the bag, and there was no string to make the bracelets. And we were like, oh my gosh, we have all these, what are we going to do? And we looked in the bag, because each day we had a bag, and we found these cross necklaces, the plastic cross necklaces. And we're like, okay, well, we'll use these for today. So we went through the colors of the salvation, and we had them put them on the necklace, and with the cross in the middle, and then 3 beads on each side. And we're like, wow, that turned out even better than the bracelets. But we didn't plan for that. Yeah. So we're like, okay, well, we'll just do it until we run out of crosses, right? Each day for 14 schools that we went into, and we saw probably 1,000 kids. We always pulled out those cross necklaces.
That is awesome.
And we didn't plan on it or anything. I mean, it gives me goosebumps. Yeah. It is fish and bread all over.
That's amazing.
That we just kept pulling out the necklaces. And he will provide. That's provide. Amazing. So
that's amazing. So Souls by Grace, you are, like I said, in the infancy, like in the beginning of this hope, this vision, this idea. You're partnered with faithful local pastors. What are some ways that, for those that are listening, if they wanted to get involved with the ministry, whether it be on a trip or begin to fund it, is there individual sponsorship of children or of a certain product? And you hinted at a little bit earlier, right. But unpack it for me. How do I get involved? How do, like, maybe a pastor's listening, how can his church partner with you to see the gospel advance among all nations, specifically Africa?
Right. I would say the first thing would be to probably contact one of us. Go to the website, soulsbygrace.com, and read through all of our values and our missions that we have. Get in touch with somebody, because you've heard about Souls by Grace now. Now, who have you heard it from? So find out who that person is. And then let one of us talk you through it. The website has a lot of things. You can do individual sponsorships. You can do a monthly sponsorship that it just automatically comes out. There's even merchandise on there, Souls by Grace merchandise. So that would be a great way to start. Also, helping if you own a business or something that you're interested in, hey, let's do a sponsorship night. 10% or 15% of sales can go be donated to Souls by Grace from this company or from this organization.
Awesome.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, and I would encourage, we'd love to take you to Africa. Let us take you to Kenya. Let us help you bridge that to meet these children, see these children in their eyes, the joy and how much they they're like little parrots. So all of them can probably repeat the Lord's Prayer, but do they really understand what they're saying? Or are they thinking, give us our daily bread, like, I'm really going to get bread,
Yeah.
Sometimes they just don't really understand what they're saying, and that's where I want to get to. I want them to really understand and have a relationship. The family dynamics are not like ours, so a loving father might be a little different, of a different structure. And so we want to make sure that they know that they have a loving father, and they can talk to him anytime they want to. So we teach them to pray and how to pray. But I would really just love to take more people over there, let them experience it, let them connect with the children. We also work with an orphanage. And again, we spend 2 nights there. So playing with the kids, they are amazing and know their Bible, but it is just so much fun to just see those children's joys and connect with them, and then come back here and, be our spokesperson.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So I would be able to connect in all those ways by going to soulsbygrace.com and just emailing, say, hey, I'm interested in a trip. I'm interested in partnership, whatever that looks like. Just get me involved, get me engaged. I want to be a part of it. And you guys will reach out and you'll connect all the pieces and make sure that all happens.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, listen, but before we wrap this up, I appreciate y'all's time so much today. Is there anything else about the organization or the gospel, or you laying your yes on the table with God, that you've learned in this that you would say if you're talking to, and I want to hear from both of you, right? If you're talking to someone that's sitting on the edge of their seat and their yes is still in their hand, what would you say to that person? Maybe it's not a mission. Maybe it is a mission trip to Africa. Maybe it is going with Souls by Grace, or maybe it's just saying yes to God to walk across the street and have a gospel conversation with their neighbor. What would you encourage that person? Laura, I'll start with you, and I'll end with you, Shannon.
Okay. I would say, and it's easy to say, but it's very hard to do. You just have to give it up to Him. You just have to just reach out to Him, just praise His name, and just say, Lord, I don't know what to do. I want to do this. Help me do this. I'm making it up to, I'm giving it to you. If this is meant for me to be, if it's meant to happen, make it happen.
Yeah.
And just let it go. And that's what I did. That's
Surrender.
what I did.
Yeah.
Because I knew the idea had already been planted. You just have to surrender 100%.
That's awesome.
My goal is to be His conduit.
Yeah.
I just want to be the conduit of, I receive His love and His forgiveness, and I want to give it out. And I think if you put your yes on the table, that's how you can start. Just be a conduit. You don't have to go to Africa. You can live on mission every day right where you are at. It is your attitude. It is when you're driving down the road and somebody, gets in front of you, just like, God bless you. That's all right. It's okay. We're all like, oh.
But it's not okay.
It's not okay.
It's okay
but
when
it
it's not
is.
okay, God.
It is just in those little
Like
moments.
when you were stuck in traffic today.
Yeah, exactly. It's in those little moments
Yeah.
that I think make the big difference. Smiling at
Yeah.
somebody. And I always say, with the shoes, we say, this was a blessing. Now you go out and be a blessing to somebody else. And it doesn't have to be a monetary blessing. It could be a smile. It could be letting somebody to get in front of you. It could be a kind word. Just be kind to the next person, and you'll see God in that. You don't have to make monumental movements. It's just in that next moment that you can share God.
I love that. So, myself, our team, we love to grow, and I know everyone listening, they love to grow. We have a community of people that like to be stretched and think about different things. If there was a book, and you don't have to, but if there's been a book that's been transformative or shaping for you in your faith journey with Jesus or on mission, what would be that book? You got one you would throw out?
Oh, I do. It's it talks about the catacombs in your heart and judgment and.
It's a good one.
I'm not sure.
It's a really good one.
We'll put it in the show notes, guys.
Yeah.
We'll find it out. We'll figure it out and put it in the show notes. And any book for you?
Nothing right now that stands out.
Cool. All right. Last thing I'm going to ask. This is the most
Or
simple
Book
one.
of James.
The Book of James.
I think that was
It's a good one. It's a good one. So the Book of James and the book about catacombs in your heart that we're going to get you the title of in the show notes later. Listen, you two, I'm so grateful. Thank you for your time.
We're grateful. Thank you so much.
Just sitting with us and sharing your heart and your mission. And for me, it's such a reminder, and that's why I wanted to have you on, because when we had the call the other day, I thought, man, it was so humbling for me to, one, just to feel the passion. Like both of you are so passionate about what God is doing, and you've just allowed God to do whatever He wants to do. And I think sometimes we forget, especially ministry leaders and people who are, if you're leading a family or you're leading a team, an organization, we're always there's so much that we're responsible for. We're trying to figure out how to make things happen. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of this story is you didn't make anything happen. You just said yes to God. And like, I'm just depending on you, Lord. I'm going to take another step. And I'm depending on you, Lord. I'm going to take another step. And so it's like 50 shoes, thousands of shoes, goats, chickens, widows, orphans. Like the Lord really will write the story if you quit yanking the pen out of His hand, you know? And so I was enthralled with the story and
thank you.
And the opportunity for everyday people from everyday places to be on mission for Jesus. And I think your organization is a great example. And so I'm honored that y'all would give me your time and that I could introduce our listeners to Souls by Grace. So listen, if you are interested in connecting with Shannon and Souls by Grace, go to soulsbygrace.com. They're also on Facebook and they're on Instagram. There's plenty of pictures and reels, and you can see more about their organization and you can hear their heart and you can see all the smiles. So just one more time, thank y'all so much for being here, and we appreciate your time.
Glad to. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Y'all, listen, thanks so much for listening. We love you guys. We'll see you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the TJ Malden Leadership Podcast, where we talk about life, leadership, and the gospel. If you enjoyed this episode, share with a friend. For more content, follow us on Instagram and YouTube. If you have any questions you would like to ask TJ, whether it is about life, leadership, or the gospel, you can email those to tjmaldenleadershippodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for listening, and we hope you join us again on the TJ Malden Leadership Podcast.